Yesterday, the PC version of Black Ops 4 ended up getting a title update in preparation for its Days of Summer content coming as of this Tuesday to not only PC but also Xbox One users as well. And as with everything that ends up coming out with the PC update, that's subject to, well, data mining scrutiny, in which you can examine everything with that microscope and check out some things that aren't necessarily live at the very moment. And of course, that means our good friend Josh Cool ended up taking a look at those game files and shedding some light on what's to come within Black Ops 4, both good and unfortunately some bad. So that said, we're gonna break down everything here at this, but first things first, before we get into it, go show some love to Josh. His Twitter will be linked down there in the description below. Go toss him a follow, show him some love, and of course that's where you can check out all the things referenced here today in this video, because unfortunately, as we reference with every video talking about these leaked data mined things, unfortunately until these assets are made public and are viewable to everyone, they're still technically intellectual property of Activision and Treyarch, so therefore can't put them up in the video, but you can check them out down there in the description below, and of course show Josh some love at the same time. So let's just get into it. Let's start out with the good, because, well, the past couple of days here, we've of course had a little bit of a less happy tone on the channel, which is of course completely warranted, and I'm sure you guys have seen some of that discussion we've had here at this. But let's start with the good. Let's try and start out on a positive note here with this. We end up seeing a couple of things that are actually pretty cool here out of these game files. The first thing that I'm really interested in, of course, is the Alcatraz assets here for this. If you guys are on PlayStation 4, you know that Alcatraz for Blackout was actually removed to make way for what is Ground War right now. I think Ground War is going to continue to be there because we normally have 5 featured playlists at a time, and we only have 4 currently, but Alcatraz was removed to make way for these updates coming as of Tuesday's reintroduction here with it, in which we'll have a new POI, actually 2 of them, one being a shipwreck and one being a submarine. Both of these were actually previewed in those in-game assets within the game files as data mined from the PC version. Both of these look pretty spacious, enough for people to drop in and find loot without being immediately contested, though of course it's Alcatraz, so that'll happen shortly thereafter. And fun fact, the new loading screen was actually found as well, to which it revealed a little bit more of the map that we'll end up seeing on Tuesday, in which it looks like the cell block has actually been literally ripped apart. With a hole in the ceiling and a completely open inside, it's almost like an explosion happened and just pushed everything out from the center. So that's definitely going to be a big change to that portion of the map if that's exactly how it holds up, because cell block is usually one of the most chaotic and clustered places, being that it is so close quarters and so many people like to hot drop there. So excited to see how that turns out. But the next thing we ended up seeing was a little bit of the new Twitch Prime pack number 3. This one being for June, naturally, and probably will be coming again on Tuesday as well, simply just because we've seen every Twitch Prime pack drop in that first week, and maybe 2 weeks now at this point, which it will be on Tuesday. But we end up seeing that we'll have a camo, an emote, and a reticle here with this one as well, based off of the imagery we end up seeing with this. And the camo doesn't look too bad. I know that with a free camo like that kind of stuff, you can't really make it the most flashy thing, being that it is a promotion with something that normally costs around $100 a year. But for what it's worth, I do think that it looks pretty good. It's up there with that first camo, and of course, way better than the second pack we ended up having of, say, a reticle. I think it was a jump pack and also just a face paint. That one didn't really quite do it for me last month, so this one looks pretty good. Outside of that, we end up seeing what might be another free map. We end up seeing the assets for Splash from Black Ops 3. That map may be returning, but given that we saw Grind introduced for free, perhaps this is the same thing that ends up happening. And one thing with Splash to me is that this might be the most embodying Black Ops map of the franchise that really revolves around a summer party, a summer theme, or just something zany and out there. So it kind of fits within, and of course, to see a metric ton of pirate and water themed stuff within customization for this half of Days of Summer, and things that unfortunately I can't detail on the channel in the video again because the game files and intellectual property, it's a decent fit for timing of another surprise free edition. As well, I don't necessarily see them making this something the players have to pay for, which is surprising, right? Given how the launch of everything went down for new weapons and all, but because we see new maps with a Black Ops patch drop with the new operations, and this of course is just an event within Spectre Rising and not a new operation, I don't see this dropping as something as a part of that. We already have some details on the next DLC drop, as it will include a zombies map from what we're told, so that'll be coming next month. And I think that tentative date is July 9th, if my math is correct. That's when I expect to see some DLC maps out of the game and the new Operation Refresh. So to me, I see this as another summer edition that hopefully shouldn't cost the player anything, like how Grind was introduced just this past Tuesday. As for the timing of release, surprisingly that image of Splash was the only part that made it into the game files, meaning that we're still likely missing plenty of assets for it, and that right now it's not ready to come in just yet. But we do know that come later in the month, we're going to be getting another larger title update to round us into the end of the operation, and then possibly another one on top of that in July. So title update 1.19 followed shortly by 1.20, but we know we're getting a new update at the end of the month when Treyarch detailed we'd be getting contracts. So if I were to guess, we'd end up seeing Splash introduced around the 25th if it comes during that title update. So the final week of June, and also 2 weeks out from when we end up seeing the next operation kick in, which does follow that same marketing pattern Call of Duty likes to stick to. Now, outside of that, of course, the free map is absolutely awesome, but there's one other cool thing that was added into the game files that hopefully could mean more, but I guess we'll have to see in time. That being contracts, or something hopefully better. Now, we referenced contracts briefly just now based off of what Treyarch has told us, but what if I were to say the fundamentals and early assets of this are already in the current build of the game in the files we have right now? In the game files, there's an icon that has an old 54i logo on it and almost looks like a microchip. Now, initially, my first and immediate reaction was to say, holy hell, they're finally adding in crypto key currency for the game, which, if you haven't heard our discussions here on this before, is something that I think is actually greatly needed. While at the surface level, it might be something that kind of encourages MTX, I actually think that it's the opposite, where it dissuades out-of-pocket MTX transactions. To me, there are too many things in this game that do not have a direct counterpart or alternative to their method of unlocking those items. For example, there's no alternative to getting a skin in the shop. You simply have to open up your wallet, whereas plenty of games, take Apex Legends for example, you can buy a skin with real life money or your legend tokens, which are based off of your in-game playtime. Obviously, the time played is the longer route as opposed to the, say, $5 to $10 immediate transaction, but the option is there. Another example is the only way to get reserve crates in Black Ops 4 is by getting them from bundles, which you have to buy, or outright buying them for $2 each. Black Ops 3 even had a better system. If you think of reserve cases as those common drops that offer one item, and the crates like the rare drops, well, for 10 crypto keys, you could end up getting a common with 3 items as opposed to the one you get in Black Ops 4, or for 30 crypto keys, you could get a rare, or you could end up paying money for that. There is no direct alternative to that in Black Ops 4. So a crypto key currency would make sense and allow grinders to actually earn things for their playtime. But then, unfortunately, upon consideration and a more level-headed approach, the preemptive jump to any optimism kind of faded briefly, as it was likely just the icon for contracts coming later this month as that sort of base fundamental thing we just mentioned. But at the same time, who knows? But with the contract system coming with the next title update, and with things like Splash being eased into the game files, it would make perfect sense for the workings of the contract system to be introduced as well at this same time, but we'll have to wait and see. One interesting theory that I did see arise out of this was that it's actually the same exact icon from Black Ops 3's Black Market that denoted the no duplicate deal or no dupes deal for a week. That would actually be a really controversial thing, but honestly at this point, oh my god, give me no dupes, please. I cannot stand getting so many stickers that I've had after an hour of grinding each reserve case out. But whatever it may be, the first inklings of whatever it is there in the game files, so until the end of the month, we may be just left guessing. But outside of that, truthfully, that's kind of the only good that came from these data mined game files. And while as a general topical approach, there's not as many topics that are as bad in terms of what we're going to discuss next, but at the same time, the quantity is what's bad. As always with these data mined things, we do see that there is a ton of customization added in the game files because, well, everything is added up front and then progressively dripped out in terms of the shop items and things going up against the next 4 weeks coming up. So in that regard, of course, naturally, there's going to be a lot of customization items, but the thing that I have an inherent problem with this time around is that almost everything is bundled with supply crates. We've talked about this here on the channel before, but if you guys have missed the discussion as to why this is terrible, it's because it jacks up the price tremendously. You'll end up having something of, say, a camo that you really like, but then it's bundled with 10 supply crates, in which just off of that, it's at least a $20 bundle for one camo. Everything else is probably duplicate stickers. Maybe you get lucky, maybe you get an MK2 weapon, but still, that's terrible pricing and terrible strategy, and therefore ultimately pushes more people away from buying those things. Based off a preliminary scan of customization things that were added in that are new, 6 out of the 11 are bundled with supply crates. And the unfortunate part is that all of these aren't even close to low number of supply drops. There's only 2 that have 5 crates, everything else are 8, 9, or 10 crates bundled with those. We end up seeing the Swordfish Mastercraft that we ended up having for this week on PlayStation 4 was 8 crates with that. The Deep Voyage Spitfire Mastercraft has 9 crates with it. A new sword melee weapon, which based off the game files is named Rising Tide, has that, an emote, and 5 crates associated with it. There's 2 bundles which we'll talk about in a little bit more detail here in a second that ends up having a Zero outfit, a Battery outfit, and something else, plus 10 crates. And the Augur Mastercraft is sort of a Grand Heist throwback with 10 crates associated with that, just Mastercraft. So in that sense, I'm just not a fan of jacking the prices up for this kind of stuff. I guarantee you to end up getting more sales as well, just as a direct purchase and not having those things bundled in there. So I don't know what's going to happen here with these, if any of these change, but as of right now, it just looks to be more price gouging. And you think that after a launch of how the DLC weapons worked out, something would get adjusted, something would change, but it seems like they're doubling down, man. I don't understand. Out of that, though, we also end up seeing that we have kind of a rough tentative schedule for the special orders and also a special offer schedule. So to me, we end up seeing multiple things that could work with these special orders, with the Swordfish Mastercraft being what we got. The Deep Voyage Spitfire may be coming as of next week, Sergei the week after that, maybe the new sword melee weapon based off the game files again the week after that, with maybe special offers being the Ladies Man Menendez thing we had this week, the Grand Heist bundle maybe next, the Zero bundle and Battery bundle maybe the 2 weeks after that. But we'll see how that all rolls out. But the big thing that I do want to talk about that I think is terrible, straight up, there's no other way to put it. I was trying to think of off the top of my head some other wording for it, but it's terrible. That being those Battery and Zero bundles that we talked about and said we'd come back to. Those include uniforms for the characters, 10 bundle crates, and a weapon bribe. Man, how can you be that out of touch? Like, oh my god, we end up putting weapons normally in the tiers so players can organically unlock them and grind them out. But then we end up taking, just for Days of Summer, this first introduction here, putting 4 weapons in supply drops, or reserves rather, end up giving you 1 chance with a weapon bribe to end up getting either those or the dozen Mark II weapons out there. And then guess what? We're gonna sell you out of a bundle, which is probably gonna be 20 or 30 bucks, another weapon bribe multiple times so you can, you know, get a chance for that. Come on, man. Like, it shouldn't. Oh my god, I got no words. I don't know what to say at this point. I hate to keep beating a dead horse at this point, coming back to this whole DLC thing, but like, they're not even trying to hide it. I don't know who, like, I genuinely don't know if it's Treyarch or Activision that are like, yes, do this, but whoever it is, they're like, what? I don't know. Whatever. That's the stuff, though, that is the bad part here out of this, that everything is parted out and jacked up in price probably coming here with this, which sucks because there's some really cool camos, some really cool uniforms here in this, but just putting them all with bundle crates and everything like that, I don't know, dude. Like I said, they're not even trying to hide it at this point. It's just cash ops for this. But one other thing to mention is that out of this, though, surprisingly, there was literally nothing about factions. None of these game file assets had anything with factions. The Spectre Rising data mined game files had 1 image that looked to be like the 4 factions, the icons here for this, and I kind of thought that we'd end up seeing this, of course, compounded and added onto because, well, of course, we're promised to have factions within this operation, and we're now running out of time, and with it not being in this Split's major title update, it's kind of worrying, though, for Zombies fans because they haven't had anything in ages outside of Gauntlets and 1 map here as of last month, or was it 2 now at this point? But it is something that we do still have 1 more title update at the end of the operation coming up with contracts, so maybe it is added in there, but it is a little worrying, not gonna lie. So that's, we're gonna wrap it up here at this one. Again, there are some things that do have potential to be really cool and actually be something that pleases the player base, but ultimately at the end of the day, like, comes down to, again, there's some really cool stuff, but it's always overshadowed by something stupid with this MTX model. But that said, that's where we're going to wrap it up. So let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. What do you guys think here of this? You guys looking forward to the prospect of another free map coming within Days of Summer, maybe contracts coming later this month, the new Alcatraz assets coming out, and what do you think of course, the, again, for lack of better terms, terrible things being added into the customization and marketplace within this update? That said, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to drop a like down below. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure you guys subscribe so you don't miss a single thing regarding all things Black Ops 4 and all things Call of Duty. Updates, news, information, tips, tricks, all that good stuff. We got you covered. The best of updates, news, information, tips, tricks, all that good stuff. So if any of that interests you, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single thing regarding all things Call of Duty. Also, if you guys want to follow me over on Twitter and Instagram, those are the best places to get connected outside of YouTube. Practically live on both those. If you guys want to straight up a conversation, ask me a question, whatever it may be, that link is down there in the description below. But let's end out of the way. Thank you guys all so much for watching. Mine is Espresso. I'll see you guys later. Take care and peace.